Prof, I want to start by thanking you very much for finding the time to record this interview, and also to congratulate you on your so many successes and to wish you many more.
Thank you very, very much. It is I that should be thanking you for the knowledge and enthusiasm you have invested in this. As I was saying on our way to this place, one of my major problems with our beloved continent is that Africa does not know what to do with memory, how to keep memory. So the kind of documentation you're doing is so important. As I keep saying, none of us can live forever, but we can leave something behind that can live beyond us. I think this is where the kind of work you are doing really comes in. It looks to me like a great investment in the future. I may not have the opportunity to say this again. Meeting you is some kind of deja vu, because I met you earlier on in my sitting room in Nigeria. Got home and my publisher brought a copy, a big book that you had edited on Mr. Mugo. I couldn't believe it. It's so beautiful and so good. I'm still reading it. It's not something you can read in just 2 months or whatever. I never knew you and I will be meeting with this soon. So let me thank you for that truly memorable work you have done for Mr. Mugo and for us.
That's very, very kind of you to say that. Let's go back to the beginning. Where did all this begin? How did you find yourself in this world of writing?
Talking about memory, I think I can't really remember any work of poetry I have done that hasn't had one thing or another to do with memory. In fact, there is one of my books titled Horses of Memory. And what I'm doing there is really asking Africa and asking the world, why do we keep committing repeated offense? There is nothing new in the crimes that we see around us. I think it's because we forget too easily. One of humanity's greatest antidotes to forgetfulness is writing. My father, who never went to school, would say, sit down before me, let's put black spots on a white surface. I'm going to do by doing something. That's how he used to say. He respected learning and education and the fact that books do not forget. So I grew up in an agrarian community. My father was a farmer. My mother was a cloth weaver. But basically, she was there to support her husband in her agricultural work and so on. So it wasn't a rich family or whatever. But whatever my father produced on his farm was enough to feed us. So we were not terribly comfortable, but we didn't starve either. We didn't have much in terms of material positions. But my parents made up for that by making sure that we had a lot of spiritual, intellectual, and moral replenishment. So many sayings that I heard when I was about the power of knowledge, about the power of the book, and the difference between book knowledge and innate wisdom. because they would tell me, yes, you have to go to school and learn how to read and write. When you do that, it's possible to amass knowledge without really being wise. That you don't need to go to school to acquire wisdom, but going to school reinforces it. There is something they teach. There is some kind of wisdom that they do not teach in the classroom. But the way you use what you are taught in the classroom could help you in increasing your wisdom. So there's a distinction between which is the inside, and what you know from inside, that is wisdom. And then what you read in books, that is what you read in books. For you to be an accomplished person, you have to be able to combine knowledge with wisdom and make sure that there is a symbiotic relationship between the two. I grew up among thinking, talking, singing, drawing, working people. My father was a farmer, real hard working farmer, but a song composer and a good singer to the bargain, and he was a good drummer. So I appreciated that. There was a time when local festivals had a lot of significance, and I used to look forward to those festivals. Every festival had its own store of songs, its own style, its own manner of drumming, and its own style of dancing to the drumming. No, complete theater, really, without a stage. This is why when somebody interviewed me a couple of years ago, asked me, how many books did your parents read to you? I said, none. It was an American friend. Oh, really? How did you become a scholar? I said, no, the books were not on the shelves. No, they were invisible books, books of wisdom. So this was it. I appreciated the dance styles, the beauty of the songs, and also the beauty of the things that I heard. Virtually everywhere, the proverbs. And I liked school. I had a brother who went to school, and I used to stay by his side whenever he was doing his schoolwork. I think the first year I told my father, take me to school. They said I was the family said I was too small. In those days, they would ask you to put your hand up across over your temple, across your head, that is your right hand, and your fingers must touch your left ear before they said you were old enough to go to school. Now, I loved seeing my age, not my age, those a little older than me going to school and dancing to the drums every morning and then disappearing to the classrooms, and then they would come out with their slates or their books, and I wanted something like that. So that was really it. And my father, 1953 January, said, let's take this boy to school. And I took to school, instantly. So then this is really how it began. I was raised in a culture that valued education, that valued moral principles. My mother's favorite saying was, one mouth must not do all the eating, while all other mouths are only watching. Let the left wash the right, let the right wash the left. It is only then that both hands can be clean. These are things that came from the University of Life that whose doors were opened to me by the kind of family I grew up in and the kind of culture that embraced that family, and the kind of country that we grew up in then. Nigeria was a better country then than it is now. Those traditional ethos were there. So when I go to school, oh yes, and my father also told me, I would like you to be able to read, not only to read and write. He had two things on me. I want you to be able to write my letters for me. Because whenever I wanted to write letters, you will have to look for a stranger. I said, the stranger will know all the secrets of the family. You know, that is, he said, he would also like me to have a book of my own. So we lived in the village. We went to Lagos, a big city, one December to buy things for Christmas, and he brought home a fountain pen. And he called me to his room upstairs. So he showed me the pen. And instantly, I wanted to snatch it from him. I said, this is like our teacher's pen. He said, yes, you can't use it yet. Because in those days, you had to begin with chalk on slate, then pencil, before you graduated to using it. So I can't use this, but I know its power. I'm going to keep it. I'm looking forward to the time I will give you this and you write my letter for me. And years later, when you will tell me, this is the book I have written, I'm happy that both dreams came true before he died. 1983, when my first book came out, Songs of the Marketplace, took it home to him. He called his friends, keg of palm wine, and said, we're celebrating something today. You celebrate with me when I produce big yams. This is the big yam of this boy. And so he opened it and was trying to read it. And his friends told him, why are you opening this book? You can't even read it. Actually, my father was holding the book upside down. And he looked at his friends and said, I may not know this book, but this book knows me. So this is the kind of background I grew up in. Do the right thing. Speak out. Don't be afraid. If your position is right, pursue it. Care for the other person.
I'm struck by what he said about songs of the marketplace, because I do remember how that book is also connected to your own compatriot, Bennett Abiola.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh, yes. Abiola was the one who published it. My good teacher and friend. I started working on the poems in Songs of the Marketplace when I was doing my doctoral studies in Toronto, Canada. By the time I finished in 1979, I returned and I started writing more and more and more. A year later, I completed the volume. Now, I was wondering who would publish it. No. But I gave it to Professor. Professor Irele had a publishing company then, New Horn, and he was our teacher, much older than we were, but Irele was eternally youthful, enthusiastic, highly sociable, and very knowledgeable. So we all liked him. So he knew he wouldn't make any money from New Horn, but he wanted to encourage new writing. That's why he called it New Horn. The old Horn was at the University of Ibadan many years ago when they just founded the university. So this was a New Horn. So he saw, at that time I had published a couple of the poems in different places, and he had read them, especially West African, which was a news magazine based in London, but whose focus was Africa. So some of the poems were there. So he said, your manuscript is ready. I said, yes. Well, can I have a look at it? He said, yeah. So I gave it to him. He said, I will hear from him in about 2 weeks. But I was surprised. The following day, I was in my office, and Professor Irele knocked on the door. He came upstairs. I was in another room, So he didn't see me, and he left about, "Niyi, I have just finished reading this word. They're terrific." Yeah, that's this word. Will you give this to New Hunt to publish? No. So when I got to my office and I saw the thing, so the following day, we met and I said, "Yeah, go ahead." So this is how it turned out to be the person to publish my first book. And I will forever be grateful to him. Actually, the title of that book belongs to him. My own title, I took it from what I called the most important poem, the iconic poem or so in the book. The title is "I Sing of Change." Yes, I Sing of Change. That was the title. So when he was about to go to press it, let's sit down. I Sing of Change. Yeah. He didn't force it on me. He said, "What about Songs of the Marketplace?" Because I have read this and I see that it's so public oriented. And I said, "It." So I owe that title to him. Although the iconic poem was still there, I think we then placed it as the terminal poem in the book. And it has turned out to be my most anthologized poem because soon after it was on the underground in London. And I was told that it's seen over 2,000 public spaces in the world. I Sing of Change. So this is how it came. My professor really was very happy about it, And many people considered the book a turning point in Nigerian poetry because the first poem there is titled "Poetry Is," where actually, almost without knowing it, defined what the new poetics should be. But we had problems with the poems of people like Wole Soyinka and Christopher Kimball. We admired them, but we didn't really quite understand the novel, although we were young when we were in high school. J.P. Clark, who later became Becadero, many of his poems were accessible to us. And then also Okaya. But Soyinka and Okigbo were so difficult. I remember raising an issue about this in our school. We were in high school when we asked our teacher, "This poem, what does it mean?" And our teacher said, "Read it, my boys. Memorize it." So, but memorizing it, how can we memorize it without really understanding it? And the one then more or less said, "Oh yeah, that's what poetry is. We are not supposed to understand it all. It is the all about it. That's the beauty." It was eulogizing obscurity. From that moment, I began to say, traditional songs are so poetic and also so attractive and so accessible. My sense of gratitude to orality started a very long time ago, and it is still very, very much with me. For the poem to be really good, for the poem to be acceptable as far as I'm concerned, it must sound and mean. It's important. I come from a very musical background, and Yoruba is a very musical language. In Yoruba, you don't say, "I'm going to read poetry." Read and poem don't collocate. Chant. Utter. I'm going to chant poetry. Because there is literally no difference between singing and reading or whatever, singing poetry and reading it in Yoruba. So this has been at the back of my mind. Virtually every poem I have written. He really understood all that, and he embraced it. So it was that very first poem, "Poetry Is," that I said, poetry is man meaning to man. I think that those are the last few words. Yeah, it is not this, it is not this, it is not this, it is not the esoteric esoteric whisper of a single person. Poetry is something that gathers people. It's the sound of the rain on the roof. It's the hawkers deity. And the beauty of the grass, of the dew, the touch of the dew on the morning grass. No, it is what it is for us, not just for one person. It's like a song. And people tell me, and I see it around too, that the new generation, second generation of Nigerian poets, actually, that's our principle. Make it simple, but delicate. Make it beautiful and useful at the same time. So there was too much modernism in Shoyinka, Okimbo, and others. We tried to tame, modernism is useful. We tried to tame that modernism. I believed then, and I still believe today, that there is a lot of difference between obscurity and obscurantism. Yes, a good work of art must be obscure in a way, must have you have to make an effort before you understand it. If it offers itself to you without you asking, then that's not the poem you are asking for. You have to. That is obscurity. Obscurantism is a kind of ideology. It's a deliberate form of epistemic block we place on the way of the reader. So the reader reads without really knowing what you are saying, and it appears that that is where you draw your power. No. Obscurantism, no, but obscurity, yes. A little bit of it is good for any art.
Prof, if we took a tax cab in Lagos in that legendary Jaga Jaga, and I asked you, what is your work about? What would be your response?
Oh my God, I will need an elephant's mouth answer that question. What my work is about? Well, as those few lines at the end of poetry is, that definitive poem said, poetry is man meaning to man. Today I will say poetry is the human being meaning to other human beings. I would say that humanity is primary to always at the back of my mind. Again, this is a principle that has come to me through the kind of culture in which I was raised. How to make the world a better place. That's why when I became a scholar, so-called, and a teacher and so on, I didn't take kindly to formalism. Because at the time we were rising as poets, it was formalism that reigned supreme. That is formalism. Formalism privileges the form and shape of the work at the expense of the content. And right from then I've always asked, isn't it possible to make it beautiful and useful at the same time? Because Yoruba aesthetics, it is worthless if it is only beautiful without being useful. You call it pretty. I once asked my father, the communal building, in fact, it's like a palace where the head of the extended family held court. I used to go there with my father, and traditional African architecture with the roof resting pillars, and then there's an open space right in the middle. These pillars were carved and they were beautiful. So one day I asked my father, those pillars, why are they carved? Do they need to be carved for them to be able to support the roof? And my father said, no. But They are better because they are carved, because they are serving two purposes. They are bearing the weight of the roof, and at the same time, they're providing food for the eye. Food for the eye and the mind. Yeah. It's possible for a work of art to do this, call it the integrated holism, really. This is what I believe as an artist, as a teacher, and if I was as a human being. Form should not be allowed to stand in the way of content, because the way some of the scholars, especially scholars of the West, will deride content. No, the poem is saying too much. Say too much. Why don't we look at the what? The what is as important as the how. So this is what you better hear from me, or you will hear from me if we were driving around Lagos. Yeah, the kind of work I have no pretense about it. I believe very strongly that we human beings have a way of making the world a better place, and that it is not only the politicians that have the data. Everything we do, everything that defines us should be to that purpose, making the world a better place. I was given an award in China a couple of weeks ago, and I couldn't go because of COVID, so I had to send my acceptance speech. And that speech, I think it's titled, Why Poetry Matters. Why Poetry Matters. And that's, I have to say that I belong to the group of poets who believe that a poem could change the world. It may sound hyperbolic or whatever, yeah, but there's some, yeah, I believe very much that it is possible for art to change the world. It has been happening, just that people don't recognize it. Now, art is not something you engage in just for its own purpose. For its own purpose, that's beauty. Usefulness is also part of beauty. So I don't only talk about the beauty of form, I also talk about the beauty and desirability of content. So the two going together. And if you are driving through the street of Lagos, I will tell you to look left, look right, look up, look down. You see the inequalities, see the beautiful buildings, almost futuristic, and then you see the slums. How can I see this too? I keep quiet about the contrast between the two. That contrast is the source of violence. You can never have peace where you have that kind of inequality. Some of the most expensive vehicles in the world are gliding by, and yet you have people knocking on your door. Give me two pennies because I'm hungry. And then you see people in rags. I can't blind my eyes to those moves. No. That's why that poem of mine, I Sing of Change, it actually ends with the line, I sung of a word reshape. I believe it's not, am I being messianic or whatever? No. It's just the way I see the word. I can't do it alone. But that doesn't prevent me from having lived under military dictatorship for so many years. Because during the time of this, democracy didn't come to Nigeria on a platter of gold. We had to fight for it. Endangered our lives and our freedoms, curtailed our liberty. Quite right. You had to run around. Times you wouldn't be able to sleep in your own house. Why? 2 decrees were promulgated by the military. Decree 4, Decree 2. Decree 4 makes the publication of anything an offense if that publication insults a public official. Even if it is the truth, you could still be arrested. Decree 2 then says, if you are arrested, nobody should hold anybody responsible for granting your freedom. That is, government can arrest you and keep you for as long as it wanted. How can I be a teacher and a writer in a society that is ruled by that kind of law and go to bed and sleep? No. So newspapers were being closed down. I couldn't write some of the columns with my prose columns, so I took to poetry. So in 1985, started a column in the Nigerian newspaper. It was called Songs of the Season at that time. Poetry saved, no doubt about that, because I could use metaphor, I could use images, the hyena, the lion, and so on, the lamb and the impala and the deer on the other side. So while upbraiding the lion for doing this, you're also telling the lamb, oh, you lamb, don't make yourself such an easy prey. It helped. That kind of thing. My readers understood what I was talking about, and I have kept the column up to the present moment. In fact, the last one came out, because I do it every Sunday, came out this last Sunday. It's a poem that I wrote, exactly a tribute to Harry Belafonte, who just passed away. Yes, a life worth celebrating. I have celebrated Achebe, I have celebrated Shinyinka. About 2 weeks ago, it's the Nigerian writer about my generation, Koli Amatosho, at 80. Yes, Henry Chakaba has been celebrated there too at Ngugi wa Thiong'o. If you don't make version attractive, you are indirectly making vice and everything. It is important. There are good people present, good actions, praise them. Well, it's not all praises, of course. I call it singing and stinging. The military didn't like what I did, and now the civilian politicians are not liking what, because I'm saying we could live better. We could do better. I've been offered government positions, I have turned them down. You can't run with them and chase them at the same time. No. So Lagos, will be saying, you'll be hearing me saying, oh, Wachanga, can you see that? Can this city be knit up? Can't our system be more just and so on? And I will also ask you to listen to the beautiful music of Lagos. That's one thing. Like I keep saying it. Nigeria is a beautiful, but Africa is a wonderful place. There is nothing we want that is not on that continent. But you may live on water and die of thirst if you don't have the technology of lifting the water and putting it in your mouth. Who has been standing between us all these years, between that knowledge, that science that we need to make our country, our continent better? Well, we know them, the politicians and so on. So we must make sure that we don't allow them to rest.
It is striking how you edify your responses by switching to Yoruba. It is quite musical. But you have written in English, and I'm wondering, is English an African language?
I know where you're going, Wachanga. Yes, I know where you're going. The running soul of African literature. Whether English is an African language or not, I will come to that later. But addressing the language problem. You see, my academic area is both literature and linguistics. I teach sociolinguistics and I teach stylistics too. So the choice of language is extremely important. This is one of the reasons Ubugi is also so popular in our group in Nigeria. From now on, it is Gikuyu or Kiswahili all the way. Sounded idealistic and so, but he made a statement. Languages are very territorial. I have written essays on this too. In fact, there's a place where I actually went almost autobiographical. I call it Yoruba thoughts, English words. The poet's journey through the tunnel of two thorns. It's a battle in my head every time. The battle in my head too when I'm writing. Because Yoruba and English are two languages, but they're different. The power of Yoruba language, the storehouse of Yoruba is sounded. Urukutindi tindi tindi, urukutindi tindi tindi, urukutata kitita. You can make music, the syllable, that is this consonant, this is a vowel, you put them together, you create a kind of drama of meaning. Yoruba is a language of onomatopoeia and idiophores. Sound is meaning is sounded. English is not to that extent. English is a stress-timed language. Science, scientific, we keep going up and down. Yoruba is syllable-timed. That is poetry. How do you write a poem in English whose ideational origin is Yoruba? It's a challenge, but I face every time. When Oga Chinachiri was alive, I used to thank him. He said, "No, I'm not a poet, I'm the novelist." I said, Oga, no. The way you wrote, you created your work in prose, taught us how to create ours poetry. What actually did with the English language, very similar to what Ubugi did, especially his earlier works. I think Ubugi has talked about it before too. Many times I come away with expressions that I like, but there are times I end up with some expressions I thought could have been better. So the language issue in African literature is still very much there. I have written essays on this. I write in both languages. Oh yes. But that I write in Yoruba doesn't mean that the job is easy. It's tough labeled in any language, to be able to create in any language. But when I'm writing in Yoruba, it's like I'm feeling the kind of organic connection between my hand and my heart, and my brain. When I'm writing in English, that connection is not so organic. It becomes cerebral. You make it through so many choices, you cancel out so many things. Because no matter how much we may say and listen, English is still the language of other people. There is no way I can speak English the way I speak Yoruba, that I can use English the way I use Yoruba. There's no way I can inhabit Yoruba, and I can inhabit or live in English the way I live in Yoruba. Nigeria has over 300 languages and cultures. What are we going to do? Without English, the nation we call Nigeria would disintegrate in 1 second. So this language we talk about so much, what are we going to do? This is where the Nigerianization, the Africanization of the English language comes. I have no qualms about language. Our languages are wiser than we human beings who use them. Yeah. What Shakespeare did to the English language was considered foul in Elizabethan England. Now it is time. So creating the kind of English that will make, or developing a kind of English that will make creativity a lot easier and more accessible. That is it. Bilingualism, is it? In fact, that's what I wrote my doctoral dissertation on. Bilingualism and biculturalism. The two are English and Yoruba, English and the Kulu, English and Lo, English and the Igbo. So it's important that if you have two hands, you keep them. In Yoruba, the Yoruba philosophy is not elimination by substitution because it is additive. You add to it. We are lucky. I think Prof. said it in the Best of the Earth, one of his collection of essays. He said, whoever has two languages has two souls. We have to take care of both souls. The problem in Africa is that English has been cheating French, English, Portuguese, and Arabic, cheating the indigenous languages. And many of our people tend to forget the indigenous languages and go in the way of no. A kind of balance is important. We have to reinstitute the indigenous languages and make our children proud in using them. Otherwise, our languages will disappear. And no matter how much we struggle, you can never use English really like a native speaker. And now, just as a native speaker of English can hardly ever use Yoruba the way I use it. Because no matter how long the driftwood keeps in the lake, it can never become a crocodile.
Prof, read me a poem.
Yes, let me read that poem. I think of tunes. I really often accompany my readings with singing too. Ese kodara, ese kodara o, ẹ̀yin ayé kan, ese o. What that song is saying is, make the world a better place, make the world a better place. You who have power to do so, make the world a better place. I think of change. I think of the beauty of Athens without its slaves, of a world free of kings and queens and other remnants of an arbitrary past, of earth with no sharp north or deep south, without blind curtains or iron walls, or the end of warlords and armories, of prisons of hate and fear, of deserts tree fruiting after the quickening rains, of the sun radiating ignorance and stars informing nights of unknowing. I sing out a world reshaped. Sere kodara, sere kodara o. I want a ye con sere.
Very well done, Prof. Very, very well done.
Oh, thank you very much, Wachanga. You are such an inspirer.